Today is April 24th, 2023. My name is Charles Suter. Today I'm presenting the topic passive versus aggressive behaviors. My main message: assertiveness is the remedy to both overly passive and overly aggressive behaviors. Notice that I have a diagram here. This is a bell-shaped curve showing the distribution between the range of passive to aggressiveness. Most people falling within the middle here, and some people on the far ends are either too passive, which means they don't stand up for themselves sufficiently, or too aggressive, which means they overstep the bounds of what is normal, correct social behavior. Now, notice there's a continuum between passiveness and aggressiveness. Like a normal distribution of any human trait, some people are too passive and some are too aggressive, but each for a different or wrong reason. Because there's a time to be passive and there's a time to be aggressive. But the key to wisdom is knowing which response is most appropriate. Most people respond to adversity and conflict somewhere in between passive and aggressiveness. The emotionally healthy person is not afraid to ask for what they want when they believe it is reasonable and appropriate, and they're ready to defend themselves against offensive intrusion by others when others cross the boundaries of what's normal politeness and decency. People with a healthy self-esteem believe that they, other people, and life are basically okay. People with deficient or distorted self-esteems believe the opposite. Something's either wrong with themselves, other people, or life itself. Now, the remedy to being overly passive or aggressive is to develop a healthy self-esteem and or learn new assertive techniques based on open and honest communication. The only way to do that is to develop new beliefs that allow you to accept and respond to the world as it is and not as you demand it. Proposition 1, and this is for people who are on the too passive end of the normal distribution, who believe they're not okay. The remedy is they need to be more assertive. So, besides developing a healthy self-esteem, one can learn assertive behaviors. They need to increase self-confidence by learning healthy ways to handle rejection. Passive people who are less inclined to stand up for themselves and without a willingness to take risks of asking others for what they want can develop a healthier self-esteem by learning how to be more assertive. Social rejection and failure are often too painful a risk for passive people to overcome, who don't believe they're good and worthy enough to have what they want. Extremely passive people must learn to judge themselves not by their outputs, but by their inputs, efforts that they control rather than outcomes outside their control. Assertiveness is nothing more than polite conversation, and the more chances one takes to ask for what they want, the more positive outcomes they get. On those occasions where the assertive action does not get a desired response, the person will learn that the experience is usually not catastrophic or dire than they imagined. An increased number of assertive actions will actually teach the person how to be more assertive and to gain for themselves a greater number of positive experiences, which will gradually build their self-esteem. Proposition 2 is for people who are on the other extreme, too aggressive. People who believe others are not okay need to be less aggressive. Besides developing a healthier self-esteem, one can learn assertive behaviors. Apply assertive coping techniques instead of resorting to aggression. People who are prone to respond to adversity and conflict with abrasive and demanding behaviors to the detriment of others must learn to be more assertive without being offensive. They must learn to be more accepting of situations that don't turn out as they want and how to deal with disappointment in healthy and constructive ways, communicating non-defensively and seeking compromise. Aggressive people must accept that people in life are essentially good, but not perfect, and sometimes will let them down. The better approach for dealing with conflict and adversity is to accept reality and deal with it assertively. Proposition 3. The remedy to both overly passive and aggressive behaviors is assertiveness. Most people are not afraid to ask non-offensively for what they want. And if their request is not granted, they have the right to modify and repeat their request. Both overly and aggressive people can benefit by learning how to be more assertive without responding timidly or offensively. Passive people need to learn how to ask persuasively for what they want, and aggressive people need to learn how to negotiate not offensively for what they want. Both need to accept no for an answer and learn new assertive strategies for dealing with conflict, such as offering fresh alternatives for mutual gain and giving others a better reason to oblige. If at first one does not get their request satisfied, they can still try again with a different and more appealing approach. Even if life is tough, one can always offer more and accept less to get what they want. Now, my final message: when in doubt, be more assertive and less passive or aggressive. In the normal distribution of passive-aggressive traits, a small percentage of people lie outside the norm, with some being too passive and some too aggressive. These unsocial behaviors could be due to conditioned behaviors, a failure to communicate, and unhealthy self-esteem issues. If the problem is due to unhealthy self-esteem issues, one can develop new beliefs that are more accepting of themselves, others, and life in general. Or they can learn to become more assertive and less timid or offensive in their approach during conflict with others and life in general. A normal person will simply ask and work for what he wants and is prepared to accept outcomes not to his liking. So rather than perceiving negative outcomes as failure and shame and reacting with anger and embarrassment, a mentally healthy person will respond with a polite acceptance and then make rational choices on what to do next. There are always follow-on choices to make when life doesn't turn out as you hoped it would. A little more assertiveness combined with politeness and persuasiveness just might get you what you want. Now that's all for now. Remember to stay positive. You'll be happier, healthier, and live longer.